Every once in a while, you might come across a gem while searching for a new game to play. A diamond in the rough that just speaks to your soul on an elevated level. For those like me, who spend a lot of their time scouring the indie scene for the up-and-coming heavy hitters, these gems often come in the form of demo or early access releases for games. So far, I've made 2 videos on some of these indie demos, and I guess this is going to be my thing now, isn't it? Sulfur is an early access first-person looter-shooter roguelike, with aspects of extraction shooters to satiate that masochistic part of you. Now, admittedly, those are all genres that I absolutely adore, but someone getting into the game for the first time might not even reach those aspects of it before falling in love with it. Why? Well, even better than its gunplay, mechanics, and other crap, this game has vibes. You'll probably notice the art style before anything else, being a mix of 2D sprites for enemies and items with 3D models for world items and weapons. While some people find this part of the game lazy, I personally love the way it was executed by the devs, with everything adhering to a consistent, cartoonish art style that keeps the game feeling chill and non-serious. The soundtrack also works to this advantage, being comprised of the trap music you're hearing right now. As someone who doesn't really listen to trap music, I've gotta say, the choice to use it was inspired. The music and visuals punctuate the dark and gory aspects of the game with a very nostalgic, Newgrounds-esque vibe that sticks around even while you're getting jumped by 20 dudes with bats. The dialogue adds to this, focusing more on being real, per se, than it does on forwarding the plot of the game. The characters, ironically, aren't quite 2D. They don't have character arcs or anything like that, but they do have some unique personalities that add a little enjoyment to your pit stops. All in all, the vibe of this game is on point, allowing you to see how much passion's been put into it to make it anything but some boilerplate shooter. Now about the shooter aspect of the game, I think it's time to talk about the guns. I would be inclined to say that the guns are the main focus of the game, had I not just spent the beginning of the video talking about the game's visuals and music. Another way the game shows its uniqueness is through its guns, which are anything but normal. Now, to give a little context, I should probably say that I like guns. Occasionally in my free time, I'll take out my drawing pad and just doodle a fictional gun design, because I'm a massive nerd. And one of my favorite things to do is to come up with novel ways to torture my gun nerd friends. This game takes that concept and runs with it. Almost every gun in this game is novel in every incorrect way, and I don't think I could love it more. You don't need to know shit about guns to know this makes no sense. The game just gives you a gun-shaped object and tells you it works, and I can't tell you how much I love it. Now, the guns being weird aren't just a funny little quirk. It actually lends itself excellently to the customization mechanics of the game. In-game, you can get your hands on all sorts of attachments that make your weapons better in some capacity. And unlike in a game like Tarkov, nothing you put on these weapons can make them more off-putting than they already are. Attachments aren't the only thing you can use to modify your weapons with either. You can get your hands on a variety of oil to enchant your weapons with, doing anything from increasing fire rate, to decreasing bullet spread, to making your assault rifle shoot 40 times at once. If Sulfur's vibes are what got me into the game, the guns are what keep me coming back. Now, this entire time you might have been wondering, in what way is this game a roguelike? Well, for one thing, I'd suggest that all extraction shooters are really a subgenre of roguelikes, and Sulfur is no different. In the game, you operate from a hub world, the church, where you store all your stuff and prepare for each attempt at an area. On death, you lose all of your stuff and get sent back to the hub world to regather yourself and prepare for a slightly better informed run. You could pretty easily get through the first area with just your starting pistol and some gumption. But as you go through the tougher and tougher areas, you'll find that pre-planning your strategies becomes increasingly important. You rarely get to buy guns at the church, so a lot of the strategies available to you at a given point depend on what you've brought back from before. But what if you lose all your good gear in a later level? Well, you still may have to go revisit some of the older areas, but the game has a couple of safety nets for players. For one thing, you have an amulet that lets you teleport back to the hub at any point, as long as you charge it at one of the altars you find in the runs. This prevents you from dropping in, finding loot immediately, and dipping, but lowers the bar a bit when it comes to getting out with your haul. Additionally, you get an increasing amount of money anytime you die, so rebounding from a death isn't actually too hard as long as you're okay at rationing out that allowance. I find it's a fairly well thought out system to keep you in the game after a particularly bad inventory wipe. If anything, it gives you the opportunity to throw yourself at a level just to test it out before bringing in your big gear. Another way in which this game feels like a roguelike is how easy it'll feel after finding a good weapon, only for it to absolutely demolish you when you start getting cocky. An effect I've only really seen while playing roguelikes. In a linear story game, progress will most likely come with upgrades that keep you even with the opposition, and death won't do anything to hinder that, leading to it being a smooth experience from start to finish. This juxtaposes completely to non-linear games like roguelikes. A come-up can lead to overconfidence, sure, but it also often comes with the desire to protect your newfound loot. At least, that would be the case for anybody who has a sense of self-preservation. In many roguelikes, Sulfur included, I've been lulled into a false sense of security too many times to count. Sometimes I find an item combination that leaves me uncontested for a good chunk of time, blasting through enemies before they can get near me, thinking, I've got this in the bag, running around and oh god, oh shit, my weapon! It's an aspect of roguelikes that I love and hate. Everything going wrong in an instant just keeps things interesting enough to avoid dealing with other, more obtrusive balancing methods like wipes. Sure, it may feel unfair at the time, but the next time you go into a run, you'll have learnt a new way to keep yourself alive longer. And I can't describe how awesome that feels. Now, there are definitely a couple of complaints I have for the game, like usual. For one, I have to acknowledge that the only reason I beat the game was by looking stuff up. The game doesn't tell you much of anything about its crafting recipes, the extent to which certain debuffs affect your guns, how to remove attachments, or whatever the hell most of these stats actually mean. It's pretty easy to forget that the game's not finished. I wouldn't imagine that the UI is anywhere near Perfect Random's current to-do list, but the point does still stand. You have to look up the recipes for the higher tier food items, because they're either so convoluted or out there that you'd almost never guess them. The Admiral White Extra Strong is arguably the best item to have on hand in case of emergency, and it's insanely easy to make, requiring only an herb and a paper. But nowhere does the game actually tell you how to make it, and without looking it up, I would have never guessed that crafting recipe. With how important food is to the game, I would recommend having some kind of recipe drop or purchase you can make to get your hands on the tougher ones to find without having to look them up. Otherwise, most of what I have to complain about can be expected to change at some point in the game's development. There are so many things about Sulfur that I'd love to talk about at length. The bosses, the levels, the story, but I'll save those thoughts for once the game comes out. Until then, you'll have to go play through the game yourself if you want to experience what it has to offer. The game's not even finished yet, but that hasn't stopped me from sinking way too much time into it. I've had fun just doing challenge runs of the areas and playing around with the weapon customization, even after playing through the entire game, including the most recent update. And I've still yet to see all of it. I occasionally run into new items and secrets while messing around, and I have no doubts that there's still more to see out there. On another note, please consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video. Between work and my Twitch streams, I don't have much time to work on these, but I can promise to make a ton more in the near future. That being said, I'd like to thank you for watching to this point in the video, and I hope you have a good one.